Hi, this is part 6 of the ZF5HP24 transmission or gearbox rebuild. I'm just assembling the parking pole and speed sensor pickup on the rear of the output shaft, and this is the output shaft hub going on. There's a selection of bolts that hold that on. There isn't actually a gasket as such. It's actually on this one. It's an O-ring that seals the two together. I'm just torquing up the bolts around that rear hub. It's not really necessary to do it in rotation, to spread the load evenly. With this, you're actually only tightening the bolts. You're not actually making a calculated stress across the whole area because it's sealed by an O-ring. It's just really these bolts hold it locked in. Really, it doesn't actually depend on the tightness of the bolts to actually make a seal. There's two bolts are actually hidden away in the webbing of the support bracket. I'm just going into one now, that one there, and there's one next to it just here. They're in like a tube. It's quite unusual to find that they've actually allowed to, actually molded that bracket to allow that to happen. Right, we're moving on to doing some clutch assembly. This is on the A-B clutch housings. I think this is B that we're assembling there. There's like a steel ring that I'm just wiping. Little tiny bit of degreaser on there. That goes in first, and then on top of that we have a small clutch disc that will go in on top, and then there's the steel going in. I think that is on top, and then finally we will be putting the snap ring in that holds the whole assembly together. The snap rings actually on here are they're not all the same. Some of them are the same, some of them are slightly different. You can get them confused if you're not careful. I'm going to be actually showing you an episode, a video episode of the special tools that I made in order to complete the work on the gearbox or transmission, and also how we kept the parts in order. But there'll be a special episode just to show how that was done. And so I'll be that'll be coming up later on, probably near the end of the assembly. Right, we're moving on to the main body, which I've actually clamped in my Black & Decker Workmate. They're very useful benches, the Black & Decker Workmate, because the output shaft protrudes the flange by about 2 or 3 inches, so it's just fine for clamping between the two planks on the Workmate, and so it makes a perfect stand to assemble the transmission. I'm putting some grease on the needle roller set that we've had to install. The other thing with these ones is you have to align all the teeth on the individual clutch discs, so when you lift the completed assembly into that body, the splines on the outside of the clutch housing has to marry up with the clutch discs in the already fitted assemblies, and you'll see that here, where I'm actually going to drop it down, or not drop it down but place it down gently, and you have to wobble it backwards and forwards in order to engage those teeth. It's not exactly very easy. On this occasion I wasn't actually able to align them properly, so it meant having to take it off, and what I'm going to do is use a very small electrical screwdriver in order to align the little sprags on each individual clutch disc, so that the next time that I lift it in, hopefully it should just drop down gently and engage with each of the discs. But it is a very crucial part of the assembly sequence. If you don't get this right, then you'll find that the whole lot sticks up by a few perhaps half a centimetre or a quarter of an inch. And when that happens, if you don't get that right and you try and tighten down the bolts that hold the two bits together, it can do damage to your transmission. But they do tell you in the book that you can actually what the actual definitive measurement between the top edge of the actual body and the top edge of the clutch housing. So providing you measure that afterwards, it's about 20 millimeters, I think, protrusion, then you should be alright. I think we've got it this time. It's dropped in and it looks like it's around about the right dimensions, so I'm quite happy with that. What we're going to be doing now is to put the gasket on. There's a cardboard gasket that goes between the bell housing and oil pump, or should I say the body of the transmission and the oil pump. Just applying a little bit of grease here, and then we'll whack the actual gasket on, and then once that's in place, I'll be ready to lift the oil pump and bell housing onto the input shaft. You'll see that in a second. A little bit of time spent on applying the grease evenly is always a good thing. You know, you can rush these jobs, and quite honestly, it's not worth the rush. You know, I think we've got the gasket on fairly straight now. Just put that down for a minute, and then I'll be lifting the. Incidentally, we had these the different stages independently inspected. This is the inspector here. He likes to make sure that all the tolerances are correct, and he's just observing my assembly of the oil pump and bell housing. As you see, it's quite a fiddly thing to get on. You get everything lined up, but when it's make sure everything's lined up, should drop down, shouldn't be any gap there. If you've got the clutches completely engaged, then it should be fine. So there we are, another episode done.